Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mark Smith. I'm Group Managing Director of People to People here in Australia and Frog Recruitment in New Zealand. It's Friday afternoon, 12:30, which means it is our People to People employment and job market update, live here on Facebook and on YouTube. It's a fabulous day here in Sydney, bright, sunny, nice and crisp. I think we're due for 25 degrees on the weekend, so I'm really quite looking forward to that. And I've got to get myself over this habit of always talking about the weather on Friday when I jump onto this broadcast. The other thing you might notice is that, no, I still am wearing a tie, but it's the colour of the tie that I'm wearing today. You might notice that both my shirt and my tie are purple. And that's because today, the 28th, is Wear It Purple Day. So what Wear It Purple Day is, it's a charity for youth suicide in the LGBTIQ community. So we're supporting that here today. I know that there's a couple of the team that are actually wearing purple throughout the company, and myself, I thought I'd do that as well. Jaden, I think you've got some information about that, so if you could pop that up on the screen there for everybody. So just in case you're interested in it as well. So 28th of August, Wear It Purple. If you just type that into your regular search engine, you'll find that there, including the quote there from Ellen DeGeneres. So, okay, so what are we going to be doing today? Well, what we're going to be doing is that we'll be giving you a market overview of conditions here in the last week across Australia for the job market. We'll have our regular numbers section, and this week we'll be focusing on the gender pay gap, because that was released yesterday for Australia, which is very interesting. We'll be talking to Chris Williams from our temporary accounting team here in Sydney, and Chris will be giving us an update on the accounting market in New South Wales. We'll be talking to Amy Burton from our Melbourne team, and she's got a couple of fabulous legal opportunities that she wants to talk to us about. And then finally, we'll be discussing the gender pay gap with Sahini Wijayasinghe from our HR solutions team. She's our HR business partner that's consulting to many of our clients, and she's got some very interesting information around that gender pay gap, which we'll share with you in a second. So, as usual, if you've got any comments, please pop them down below. We do see them live. Whether you're putting the comment in on YouTube or on Facebook, we'll see that, and hopefully we'll be able to answer your questions or respond to any of your comments straight away. So don't be afraid to engage with us there as well. So let's get into it and start with this week's market wrap. So I sound a little bit like a broken record, but this week it is a steady market. We haven't seen a lot of variation in terms of the number of vacancies that have listed with People to People over the last week, in terms of both temporary and permanent. It's been very stable now for the last couple of weeks, and indeed for the last couple of months. So we did hit the bottom in April, May, and we've come out June, July, August. Looks very, very much like we're sticking to the bottom of that market as we go along. I mean, a couple of sort of anecdotes from the different states. Queensland seems to have backed off a little bit in the last week or so. Ben Wheeler, who we've had on this broadcast a couple of times, has said to me recently that the COVID scare that they've had recently has really affected confidence, and that's translated into a lower number of vacancies that have actually been listed with our office up there. I think I saw the number yesterday was just 2 cases in Queensland, but the fact that there are cases is translating into lower numbers of vacancies that are listed with our office, both temporary and permanent. From South Australia, Peter has told me that there seems to be very few roles or opportunities at a more senior level, and instead we seem to be getting more junior or operational type positions, whether they be around warehouse or customer service, but relatively junior roles as distinct from more senior positions such as a HR manager, for example. So that's what was coming out of South Australia. In New Zealand, it does remain quiet with the extended lockout through to this Sunday, so hopefully we'll see a return there. What's that translated through to is extended periods of time to hire. So the length of time that the client is engaging us from registering the vacancy with us until somebody being brought on board is extending out. In normal times, that's around anywhere between 30 and 40 days. But now it's pushing out towards 50 and over, and that's a direct response to hesitancy both on the candidate side and on the client side. So that's it for the market. Let's now move to our regular numbers section, where this week we'll be talking through the gender pay gap. So yesterday we had I think it's from the Workplace Gender Equality Agency, released their August numbers for the gender pay gap in Australia. And we've got a summary of those numbers. We'll pop those up on the screen. And so here are the 2020 key facts. The national gender pay gap is 14%. So that is, it sounds a lot, it is. But it is down from the peak, which I think was approaching 19 in 2014. So it's at 14%. And on average, women working full-time earned, I think it was $253 per week less than a man. And what that actually translates into is a situation where a woman has to work 59 more hours than a man to actually get the same pay. So I thought that was interesting. We have an infographic, I think, Jaden, if you'd like to pop that up, which gives a little bit more detail here. And what you can see from the infographic is just the differences between the highest and lowest gender pay gap. The highest is in Western Australia, 22.7%. The lowest, and this is not probably, but is because of the public sector, is in the ACT at 8.1%. So in terms of industry, the lowest is public administration and safety at 5.8%, yet the highest is professional and scientific and technical services at 24.1%. So there is still, in the 21st century, 2020, a remarkable gender pay gap. We'll explore this more with Sahini in our job hunting tip, as she gives a little bit more or shares a few stories and experiences from a human resources perspective about the gender pay gap. So if you have any questions about that, just pop them on there. But now, let's go to Chris Williams, who will give us a market update on the accounting market in Sydney. Right. G'day, Chris. Sorry about that. Couldn't get my technology right. Man, look at this. I think I'm putting on quite a bit of weight during COVID. I reckon if we went back to a few of the previous broadcasts, we would see that I have actually been exploiting the fact that COVID is a homemade food time, I think, more than anything else. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Let's talk about talk about the accounting market in Sydney. So how is the market right now?
Yeah, look, the market's not amazing. I'm not going to lie there. It is stable, though. We are still seeing vacancies come on board week on week. Some quite surprising that the property sector is still holding up for us, which is probably something when we speak to our clients, they don't quite understand, and neither do we. But the property market is something that just seems to be creating new opportunities. And other than that, it's probably the norm with the likes of things like payroll, where it's such a candidate short market that demand, no matter what the economic impact is, it's always going to be there, because at the end of the day, if someone's not going to get paid, they're not going to be coming into work. So payroll is definitely something we're still seeing.
Maybe that's related to JobKeeper too, and JobKeeper administration. I was reading an article on that earlier today so the demand for payroll professionals is related to the administration of that particular incentive, and it's not going away anytime soon either.
Yeah, especially also from a compliance perspective as well. It is something we've seen over the last few months. I think a lot of businesses have probably took this time as, when they've had to a magnifying glass to what they are doing with obviously all the reports for the ATO, probably took it as a good opportunity to really reassess their payroll needs and, whether or not what they're doing is best practice.
Yeah, excellent. If anybody is interested in payroll too, we have an outsourced payroll division. That's the selling part of this broadcast, by the way. So if you're interested or would like to outsource your payroll, then get in touch with our P2P HR solutions team. And what about the effect of COVID on the market between the temporary and permanent market? Have you seen
Yeah, I would say we haven't really seen a major change there, to be honest. You would have think that temp is probably something that would have picked up while the permanent market has slowed down a little. I wouldn't say that really is the case. We've seen a decrease in both, but I think the crossover between temp vacancies and permanent vacancies is pretty stable.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big trends that we have seen, at least I've seen over the last few weeks, is an emphasis on part-time roles, particularly from a more transactional side of things, where
Mm-hmm.
accounts payable, things like that have decreased in volume. However, the volume is still there, and especially with more senior management focusing towards things such as a higher increase in cash flow reporting and expense management. Those business critical positions, such as accounts officers, is still required. So although it isn't as a volume of a full time basis,
Mm-hmm.
1 to 2 days a week, if those tasks are being ignored, it slowly does creep up on you. And with all the other additional reporting that finance managers and accountants have to focus on at the moment, it's something that can easily fall through the cracks, and before you know it, there's a backlog of invoices that you don't want to be dealing with.
Yeah, exactly. And so do you have any advice for job seekers or employers out there right now for the accounting space?
Yeah, I would say one of the big things that I've seen has been a heavy focus on systems and industry experience. That's always been something that's driven the temp market in particular. Obviously, the fact that you're meant to start as soon as possible, hit the ground running, and fulfill that need. I
Mm-hmm.
think with working from home, it's just made that onboarding process a little bit more difficult if you haven't had prior exposure to the industry or prior systems knowledge, because the fact is there isn't going to be someone sat there next to you teaching you, even if you're the most system savvy person, you can't just simply turn around to someone and say, how do I do this? So I would think that's been a big emphasis from what I've seen, but
So
also
there's less flexibility. Is that what you're saying? So they just
yeah,
don't the spec at all because they know you're going to be working from home.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd say also from the client perspective, there is the feeling out there that because there's more candidates on the market, that there is the assumption that they should be able to find someone with the relevant experience, which from a recruiter side can be frustrating if you have someone who has the technical ability.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, why take a chance if you can find someone who does have the industry and the systems to really hit the ground running from day one.
Okay, and I can see we've got a question here, which is, do you also recruit or have vacancies outside the major cities or in regional areas?
Yeah, definitely. So for New South Wales, which is where I recruit, essentially anywhere that isn't the western suburbs. So a large focus for a lot of roles that I recruit is actually on the North Shore and the northern beaches. Sometimes a bit of a pain, but yeah, we 100% recruit outside the major cities. And I think
we've actually had so for those who are on the call, we have a Parramatta office which service Western Sydney, which is Chris is in our Sydney office. But didn't we have a job in Bathurst? And I think we also had one in Dubbo. Did we have one in Dubbo as well?
I think so.
It's not our normal core business, but we do occasionally get vacancies outside of the city. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Bathurst role is something that's actually active at the moment. I think it's run by one of our consultants, Stephanie Poulos, on the permanent side, and that is something that's active at the moment. So if you're in Bathurst,
that's accounts payable, is it? Is that right?
I think it's an accounts officer role.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, if you're interested in that, then what we'll do is we'll see if we can get Steph's details put up into the comments there. So if anybody's watching who's in rural New South Wales, or particularly around Bathurst and Orange and those sort of areas, then make sure you check that one out as well. Rightio. Well, thanks, Chris. Thanks very much for your insight. That's been fabulous. Now let's move on, and we'll go to our opportunity of the week. And this week we're going to be talking to Amy Burton from our Melbourne legal team.
Hello, how are you?
I think it's been a while since I've seen you, and I think it's the longness of your hair. Who is?
I thought you were going to be like, it's a double chin.
Oh, no.
Also been feeding myself well.
Excellent. So you've got a couple of jobs that you'd like to talk to us about.
I do, yes. So have one firm that are actively recruiting at the minute and have 2 opportunities available. So great to see that team expanding, both paralegal roles, but at different levels. So first got the junior paralegal role that's offering 65 plus super. It's in pre-litigation mortgage recovery. So it's very much on the phone, client liaison. You have to have a very strong customer service skills, also confident phone manner, and a really strong high attention to detail as well, because when you're having these phone calls, there can be so much going on that you need to be writing it all down, and then obviously updating all the files. So if anyone else was to pick it up, they know exactly what's going on. For the junior role, you don't necessarily need to have experience in pre-litigation mortgage recovery. It is quite a niche area. So for them, it is someone that may have worked in a similar role, being on the phone a lot, dealing with those kind of conversations. It could have been in customer service, be in sales or legal, for example, as well, maybe in one of the banking and finance areas. That's quite similar. So that's the junior paralegal role, really flexible in terms of experience, but like I said, in terms of personality, someone that's confident on the phone, can navigate through maybe some tough conversations, and obviously come out.
Are there any other benefits that they should? But anybody on the call thinking, "Oh, look, that's me." What? That sounds interesting. What other benefits are there?
Well, obviously for a role that's not necessarily looking for previous experience, looking at 65 plus super is definitely an attractive salary from the get-go. There's also a bonus scheme as well that extends to all of the staff within this firm. So even the receptionist and more junior staff are open to that bonus structure. So that's really awesome and really inclusive. So opportunities are real endless. Yeah.
And so these are both CBD based, are they, in Melbourne?
Yes.
Or are they working from home, or are they? What? How's that all going?
Yeah, well, everyone's having to work from home. So
hello, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, hello, welcome to Melbourne. So that's the junior role. Senior paralegal role, also in pre-litigation mortgage recovery. It's what this firm specialise in and thrive in. The salary is 85 plus super. And quality is very similar. So in terms of kind of soft skills, they're looking for very similar qualities there, but looking for that experience in a similar role within pre-mortgage recovery. So if you've had it in a like funds manager and lenders practice, that's great. If you've had it in a law firm, I know there've been big teams in those kind of specializations over the years as well. And obviously with that experience, kind of maybe a bit of mentoring to the junior staff, but it's not a formal team leader role.
Great. All right. So I can see that Jason has put the links to those jobs.
Thanks, Hayden.
But if somebody wants to jump on the phone and have a chat to you about the opportunity, what's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so always up for a chat. So by all means, give me a call. You can catch me on my landline, so 0390987433, and I'll also drop my contact details, my email address in the comments. So you can drop me an email and then let me know a time to suit you. We can go through those positions and just get a good understanding of your experience in case anything else comes up as well.
Okay, fabulous, fantastic. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you so much.
Nice to see you online, and good luck in the lockdown in Melbourne. We're all thinking of you guys down there. So, okay, let's now move on to talk again about the gender pay gap, which is the big bunch of numbers that came out yesterday. So let's now have a chat to Sahini Wijaya-Singer from our P2P HR solutions team. So just Hello. So just to give everybody a little bit of background, People2People has a human resources outsourcing division, of which Sahini is part of. So she is a HR business partner to several of our clients. And I thought, who else is better placed to talk about the gender pay gap than Sahini? So what's your experience or comments that you have about the numbers that were released yesterday, Sahini?
Well, it's to sort of reiterate the sentiments that you said earlier, it's crazy that we're still talking about this in 2020, but it is really great that we are talking about it and that it's a lot more prevalent in mainstream media now. But I think the biggest concern is a lot of people have misconceptions as to what the biggest contributor is for the pay gap. A lot of people assume that it happens right at the hiring process when people are negotiating that initial salary, and that's actually the smallest contributor to where the pay gap occurs. The three main contributors is the motherhood penalty, in inverted commas, that's what they call it, gender segregation within industries, and of course gender discrimination. The first one is really about women who are obviously starting a family. They take time off to look after their children, and then when they re-enter the workforce, they more often than not are denied the opportunity to re-enter in the position that they originally had, or at that same level with the same sort of remuneration package. And generally they opt for a part-time position, which is their choice, but there's a lot of stigma around part-time. It's gotten a lot better in recent years, but there is that preconception that part-time work isn't as challenging, or if there is a role that offers part-time, it surely can't be a significant leadership role, which, it takes a while to sort of break down those barriers. And interestingly, the industry segregation, what I mean by that is the industries such as childcare, teaching, healthcare, they're all predominantly female, 79% female representation, yet they are some of the lowest paid industries, even though despite the fact that those industries are the cornerstone of a functional society, they're actually paid the lowest more often than not.
Yes, wow. And what about? Do you have any? So what about it comes? I'm sure we've got people on the broadcast or watching later who are sitting there going, "Well, I've got my review coming up." Any advice for, say, young women who may feel that they are, that there is that gap in their organisation when it comes to negotiating?
Yeah, absolutely. So we live in the information age. There is so much at your disposal. And one of the biggest things that you can do to prepare yourself if you're in this situation is to utilize the online resources such as Pay Scale Index or Glassdoor. Now that I think about it, I'll make sure that those websites actually go in the comment section. But what you can do is go onto these websites, and they're Australia specific as well. So you can get a very accurate understanding of what your role with the number of years experience that you possess within your state or location is generally going to offer. And it will give you both a median in terms of what the 50th percentile will be, to right up to what the 90th percentile would be for extremely competitive organizations like Google, etc. So that will give you a really good understanding of where you sit, and it's information concrete information that you can take to the negotiating table to go, well, this is what the average is, and this is what I'm bringing. So why aren't you, giving that or offering that to me? That would probably be my first step of advice with that regard.
Yeah. Now, I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit because I know we didn't talk about this beforehand, but I know you have a connection to WA. Why do you think it is that WA has the biggest gender pay gap? Do you have any ideas as to why? What would be? Ooh. I know it's not really a human resources thing. I'm putting you on the spot here, but is there anything that pops into mind? Do you think it's a money thing?
Absolutely. It's the industry. It's 100% the industry. And I also think, and look, this isn't anything based on peer-reviewed journal articles by any means. This is my personal observation. Other than industry, I also think it's very much lifestyle as well. There seems to be a larger portion of women who tend to work part-time in WA. And you can also tell from the fact that it's funny, it's like a double-edged sword. WA for a long time very much had a family-friendly approach, and that was very evident in the retail sector. Shops closed really early. Sundays were like, shops being open on a Sunday was a dream. And so, that was a good thing, because I think that was really encouraging the whole family perspective of things. But it also meant that, a lot of the service-based roles were quite limited in what people could access, and part-time roles were even harder to come by. So as a mother returning to work, it could be quite a struggle to get that, potentially, even middle management, senior management role that you were in previously.
Okay, and I can see a question here then that says, do you think those jobs where you can work from home, there will be a closing of the gap in those industries?
I think in many ways, as crazy as 2020 has been, this is an invaluable learning experience in closing that gap, because there is no guys to hide behind now to say that you cannot operate functionally from home and fulfill your duties. And I think might be kind of going off on a tangent, but I think that whole concept of, oh, you can't police people from home or you can't see what they're doing, those sorts of people that they'd be weeded out from the lot anyway, whether they were on site or off site, really. And I think now is a really good time to show that, that working from home, that ability to condense down the time that you're working into a more efficient way, which enables part-time, is going to become far more mainstream moving forward.
Fabulous, fantastic. Really appreciate your insights, Sahini. That's great.
No
maybe one day we'll get to talk about the fact that there is no gender pay gap.
Wouldn't that be great? We'll have to have a celebration day.
Exactly. We'll have a bucket of wine, shall we? Is that what we'll do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Matt.
All right. Thank you very much, Sahini, for that. So that brings us to the end of the broadcast here today. I'm just conscious of time. We're slightly over 26 minutes. I wanted to thank everybody who was on the call today. So thanks again, Chris. Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Sahini, for sharing your insights and your time this afternoon. We'll be back this time next week, 12:30 on a Friday afternoon, where we'll once again talk about the jobs and employment market here in Australia. Join us then and have a great weekend.